I've just drunk a pint of Rory Stewart's tears. Right, there we go. Anyway, let's whiz ourselves over to Washington, D.C., can we? Because Kamala Harris is due to speak at her supporters' event outside of Howard University in Washington, D.C. She's congratulated Trump for his victory in the race for the presidency of the United States, gaining a historic second term. Now, Trump passed the critical threshold of 270 electoral college votes with a projected win in the state of Wisconsin. So, look, we're going to keep a close eye on that podium. She could be emerging any moment now. But before we do all of that, and we'll cut away to it if she emerges, you don't have to be a fan of President Trump to be a massive fan of this. The left-wing liberal tears are flowing today. Suck it up, buttercups. Here's Florence of Belgravia himself, Rory Stewart, proudly predicting a Harris win.
I am incredibly confident that Kamala Harris is going to win this, and win this by a large margin. And I would bet £100,000.
Oh, Lord.
I'm very, very confident Kamala Harris will win.
And here is Alistair Campbell's own personal lapdog now.
I think I was wrong because I'm an optimist. And I hate the idea of being right pessimistically. I think you can be a false prophet and right. You can align yourself with the worst instincts of humanity. You can assume...
Don't worry, Rory. Alistair will let you sleep at the foot of his bed tonight for a little bit of comfort. James O'Brien's taking it well.
Doesn't matter enough. The fact that he tried to steal the last election, the fact that he was prepared to subvert the entire democratic process up to and including.
Oh, and Little Miss Impartiality, Emily Maitlis, she lost the plot.
When Donald Trump talked about the eating cats and dogs, half of America was just thinking, this is batshit. I can't believe what he's saying. This is going to be the end of him.
Stop swearing. And I will. I mean, I'll tell Emily off later, but because I know she started the swearing. But it may be the middle of the night in Britain, but they're still a little bit sensitive about that stuff.
I think we can check on Emily Maitlis now, actually. Let's just see how she's getting on. Oh, there she is with a face like she's chewing a wasp. ITV's Tom Bradby has taken time off from stroking Meghan Markle's hair to speak on behalf of Britain, saying that Trump's a fascist.
There will be a lot of people watching back home who saw what General Kelly said, who saw what General Milley said, and just will not be able to conceive that the most powerful democratic country in the world has elected somebody who people closest to him called a fascist.
Now, how's it all going for the old lovey liberal celebrities like former comedian Dom Jolly?
It just totally blows me away that a man who clearly cares about no one but himself, I mean literally no one but himself, a total sociopath, who basically got so angry that he got beaten in an election that he orchestrated a coup and refused to accept he'd lost, has been voted back in.
Oh, not very jolly at the moment. Oh, you may. At least Scottish actor Brian Cox managed to keep it together.
You have to make sure that he doesn't get in, because he's a monster.
What about some of the print journalists? The Guardian immediately published this article. Oh, there we go. How the Guardian will stand up to 4 more years of Donald Trump. Within the article is a begging bowl for your money. Please donate to keep the Guardian crying for another 4 years. Let's just check in now with Carol Conspiracy Theory Cadwallader, shall we? Democracy died in darkness, she says. Well, at the time I came on air, about 72 million people voted for President Trump. I think 67 million people voted for Harris. It is quite literally one of the largest expressions of democracy on earth, Carol. Marina Purkis, she thinks it's time to completely F off our special relationship. Oh, yeah, great. Let's economically destroy ourselves. I mean, the Labour Party you helped to elect are doing that already. Thank you very much. But spare a thought for the insufferable Marsh family who've been pumping out tripe like this.
Oh, give me hope, Kamala. Hope, Kamala, give me hope, Kamala, for the election. Give me hope, Kamala. Hope, Kamala, hope for beating Donald Trump.
Here's a song for you. What a time to be alive. All right, here we go. Let's get stuck in with my wonderful panel this evening. We've got writer and broadcaster Nina Mishkov. We've got businessman and activist Adam Brooks. And, of course, director at Popular Conservatives, Mark Littlewood. Now, we are awaiting Kamala Harris walking out any minute now, and we'll take it for you live. I don't know if we can see any of that podium shot if it's still there, so we don't miss a second of it. Historic moment, conceding defeat to President Trump. But goodness gracious me, those left-wing tears, Mark.
Yes, well, I mean, obviously, Patrick, our thoughts and prayers are with all Guardian readers at this very difficult time. I find it amazing how thin-skinned a lot of the liberal left journalists are. I mean, I didn't want the Labour Party to win the last general election, but I didn't sort of curl up into some fetal position and scream blue murder when they did. So I find it extraordinary, this outburst. And talk about wishful thinking. I mean, how on earth Rory Stewart ever reached the conclusion that Kamala Harris was going to win in a landslide?
What's wrong with
just pluck that out of thin air. It's just absolutely the wish is the father of the thought in that case. So they seem to be not just of a leftist bent, but detached from reality.
Yeah, well, I would be inclined to agree as well. Like I said, Kamala Harris is supposedly emerging at some point soon for this, concession, as it were. I'm not sure if we've still got the live feed for that. Hopefully we can take that at some point. But, yeah, I mean, Adam, it was an interesting thing to watch, all of these supposedly impartial journalists like Emily Maitlis unable to keep it together.
It was hilarious. I sat on my settee. I did not move for about 8 or 9 hours last night, and I could not believe how childish, petulant and unprofessional people like Emily Maitlis was. We see it during Brexit. These people couldn't take that normal working class people dared to vote a different way to them, and now they cannot get their head around how black men, black women, Hispanic communities can dare vote for someone that they're not meant to vote for. These people, these lefty cabal journalists and media figures have no idea about the real world. They're in their own bubble. They go to their posh coffee shops. Their friends say the same things that they say. Their whole friendship group, agree with each other. And they just cannot deal with real life. And it's great to see. Great.
Yeah, I mean, Rory Stewart's credibility, if he had any, has been completely shot, Nina, hasn't it, really? They're Florence of Belgravia. He's out on his backside soon, presumably.
Well, frankly, I'm surprised at Rory because I sat on this sofa, not on this show, about 10 days ago, and I said that, unfortunately, probably Trump would win. I said that. I think the reaction to Trump's win is not just the Republican Party winning an election. It's not that, because Trump is not a normal politician. Trump is such an extreme person and personality that there are going to be extreme reactions.
Yeah.
And I think because of his narcissism, his unpredictability, his complete inability to think of other people, and indeed the country and the people he's supposed to be president, that everything he does is for himself and for his
But the people voted. The people voted in unbelievably large numbers.
He's very, very clever. He's very, very clever. He really is. That whole populist thing, he has managed to do it. He's utterly brilliant. He's utterly brilliant in terms of how he marketed himself.
But I would agree that Trump is the sort of politician who ignites high passions on both sides of the political ledger. And I wouldn't criticise, say, Democratic Party activists, tearing their hair out. What I find extraordinary is on the vast majority of British mainstream television media, it was the anchor man and woman tearing their hair out,
Absolutely.
not left-wing activists.
Well,
the presenters.
The Rory Stewart excuse, well, I was wrong because I'm an optimist. It's the same thing when you go to a job interview and they go, what's your biggest flaw? And you go, well, I struggle to sleep at night because I don't switch off from work because I'm such a perfectionist. Oh, jog on, Rory. He never gets out. That guy, all right, and not just him here now, but so many people like him, I am convinced, and he would probably deny this, hate ordinary people. He'd hate to go to a pub. He'd hate to go to a pub in Essex. He'd hate to go to places like Stanley in County Durham, where we went and did a whole show from. He doesn't want to go and meet the great unwashed. He likes sitting there on Alistair Campbell's lap, just peddling out stuff, pontificating about how great James Cleverly would have been.
I've never met Rory Stewart, and I'm no apologist for him, but I think for you to say that, make that sweeping statement that he wouldn't know an ordinary person if he tripped over one and wouldn't want to trip over one is pure speculation.
Well, I'll back it up. I agree with Patrick.
You agree? Have you met Rory Stewart?
No, and I don't want to.
Because he would have come to his public.
I don't want to. I mean, Patrick, these people, as I said earlier,
as soon as you start saying these people, hold on 1 second. You are dehumanising them. You are patronising them, and you are setting.
Nina.
You're setting up divisive.
Nina. 1 second, Nina. 1 second, Nina.
Stop saying that.
No, I won't stop saying this because just a few weeks ago you labelled me and Patrick as lunatics for saying that we supported Trump.
Of course, and I still think you are. Absolutely.
So you've just gone from one thing, how hypocritical.
I'm talking about the phrase, the two words, these people. I didn't say these.
Well, these people.
I do know Rory Stewart.
Themselves.
I do know Rory Stewart. I was at university with him. I didn't know him particularly well then, but I did know him, and he's a decent enough bloke. But I think the point you're making, Patrick, is there does seem to be a class of media commentators who are aloof in some fashion. I wouldn't go so far as say he'll never speak to an ordinary person. I wouldn't say that about Rory Stewart necessarily. But there seems to be a detachment from the pulse and the feeling and the attitudes and the beliefs and the instincts of ordinary Joe. Yeah, I agree.
I think that the job... Sadly, Patrick, you're going to have to be careful of this. Leads you to believe that whatever you say is gold and gospel.
No, he's a very modest man.
And you're fated by your viewers, and you're fated, if you do any good, you're fated by your employers.
I actually have to have two changing rooms, one for me and one for my ego.
Well, exactly. So you're aware of it. But the point being that people like Emily Maitlis, who did a brilliant job on Prince Andrew's interview.
Come on.
Right.
I mean, the guy, that was sitting there waiting for you, wasn't it? I mean, you know Jeffrey Epstein.
But she did it brilliantly. I happen to think that she's rather arrogant. I agree with you. I think that she is quite...
and she lost it, Nina. She started swearing. She lost like a bulldog licking a proverbial thistle.
I disagree with that. But I also disagree with Boris Johnson going on there and flogging his bloody book.
But Nina, I'd say this, right? I agree with you. Emily Maitlis can be a good kind of attack dog, actually, in interviews. She's got a real skill for that, and that's fine. What I was so disappointed about last night, flicking through all of the various British channels, was the only TV channel that played it completely straight was GBNews. Everybody else, the people anchoring it, appeared to have an opinion on what they wanted the outcome to be.
I
and that's
disagree
that's
with you.
a shocker.
The BBC did not have an opinion. They did not have an opinion on it.
OK.
Well, maybe
you've got the likes of Dom Jolly, right? Dom Jolly. I just can't understand it. I just can't understand it.
Look,
these people, maybe I had higher standards. Maybe I had higher standards. I didn't want a misogynist to win. You see it time and time again. When they get a vote that they don't like, the people who vote for that person are thick.
Let
him answer enough.
Look, this is what I was saying before. These celebrities and these left-wing activists or journalists, whatever you want to call them, they cannot understand.
You're an activist. You call yourself an activist, don't
they
you?
cannot understand why these people have voted for Trump. They do not have anything in common with the common man or the lower classes. It's pure snobbery. And it's
really
there for everyone to see.
Actually, in fairness to John,
classes, actually, I think that's.
In fairness to Tom Jolly, he actually says that. He's the one who puts his hands in the air and says, "I have no explanation for what on earth happened."
If he got out more, he might.
Yeah, he might. But at least he had the decency to admit that he had no explanation whatsoever.
That people like the news agents, all right, Lewis Goodells of this world, the only way they would have ever turned up to somewhere in the northeast, like we were at the other week or whatever, would have been to go and do a vox pop, and they clip up the most stupid things that those people say, they make them all look like idiots, and they put it out there. That's the only way they would ever go to any of those places. They do not care about ordinary people, and they've called it wrong. That's why they keep calling it wrong. They cannot fathom the idea that people would vote for Trump.
It's pure Trump derangement syndrome. These people cannot get over it and will never get over it.
May I just point out to you, when Donald Trump was sworn in as the 45th President of the United States, he put his hand on a Bible and he swore that he would protect and preserve the American Constitution. Now, on January the 6th, that is exactly what he did not do.
Utter nonsense.
Don't you say it's utter nonsense?
I'd say what I'd like, Nina.
Well,
it's utter
then
nonsense.
You're deluded in that case. And politically naive. He sat there for 4 hours. He encouraged them to march to the Capitol building,
and he called for no violence.
He didn't. Well, he sat there with his arms folded for 4 hours and didn't bring in
But
the
Nina,
state troops.
this case has been prosecuted now, if you like, in the public arena, I don't mean legally, for months in front of the American electorate. The Democrats have been pointing this all the time, and the people have now decided, and the electorate is never wrong.
Depressed about the American population.
Can I just remind everyone, if you are watching us on television, what it is that you're looking at, apart from our beautiful faces occasionally here. That big screen there that you're seeing is the podium where any moment now Kamala Harris is due to walk out, and it is a historic moment. It's a moment that many people thought would never come. She is going to, as we understand it anyway, concede defeat officially to President Trump. That's going to smart a bit,
Which
Mark,
he didn't actually do himself 4 years ago.
Right, that's true. Well, I was a bit surprised, actually, last night that she didn't do this last night. She was there last night. It was evident that she had lost. I understand she's made the telephone call directly to Trump, which is how the protocol goes. You actually directly phone the opponent who has vanquished you or defeated you. And now she's obviously going to speak to, her adoring fans. It was a big surprise to me that she packed up and went home last night. I thought that was slightly graceless. It was pretty obvious that the election was over. If she genuinely thought it was in the balance, I think she should have taken the stage and said that to her, to the hundreds and hundreds of Harris supporters who had worked so hard for her. She didn't bother. She's been completely off radar and missing in action for 12, 15 hours now.
Yeah, can I just say, thank you, by the way, guys. It's a lovely start, and, depending on how late Kamala Harris is, we might need a bit more of you shortly. But